As missiles fall and tension rises, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has declared that this war is not just Israel's war. According to him, it's a war for every democratic nation on earth. His message is clear. We are fighting to free the world from Iranian terror and extremist ideology. Netanyahu's justification is that it's a war for democracy. Speaking before the Knesset and in briefings to Western allies, Netanyahu has positioned Israel's military campaign not merely as national defense, but as a civilizational crusade. He argues that Iran's regime is not just Israel's problem, but a global one. And he said, Iran funds terror from Gaza to the Gulf, from Lebanon to Latin America. If we don't stop them here, democratic nations will pay the price elsewhere. Netanyahu claims that this objective is not conquest, but prevention, preventing Iran from producing nuclear weapons and exporting what he calls the ideology of hatred, jihad, and authoritarianism. In his own words, Netanyahu, he says, this war is not just about Israel, it's about the safety of democracies from Iranian nukes, from Iranian proxies, from Iranian poison. What is the bigger target? Is Khamenei in the crosshairs? And now, unconfirmed intelligence leaks suggest something far bolder, that Netanyahu may be considering a move that could alter history. The elimination of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. If true, it would be the most daring act by any state actor in recent decades, a direct attempt to decapitate the Iranian regime at its highest level. Some insiders claim Netanyahu even floated this idea in private discussions with the US President Donald Trump. But did Trump approve or reject? After all, Trump himself had authorized the killing of Qasem Soleimani, Iran's top general, in 2020, if we remember. Could Netanyahu now be seeking a green light or at least silence from Trump as he pursues the final blow? Let's be clear. Khamenei is not an easy target. He is guarded like a human vault. He rarely appears in public and is protected by the most loyal IRGC units. But let's imagine the unthinkable happens. What then? Would it collapse the Islamic Republic or radicalize it further? Would it bring peace or provoke full-scale war involving Hezbollah? They're already involved. Syria, Iraq, and even Russian aligned actors. Would the region finally bleed or burn? Iran has officially denied the death of Mohammad Khamenei, its top intelligence chief, even as Israel has claimed and insisted that he was eliminated. But silence speaks volumes. In retaliation, Iran has already launched dozens of missiles, and the Supreme Leader's latest address warned of a fire that will reach those who thought themselves untouchable. It was a clear warning. Meanwhile, Iran is engaging quietly with Russia and China, it seems, attempting to form a new protective axis. And yet, could it weaken or shake Tehran's boldness? Is Iran recalibrating or preparing something bigger? With Trump now in the White House, Netanyahu enjoys the backing of the most ideologically aligned US administration in years. No more vague calls for restraint. No more half measures. Trump's own words this week: Iran has been a threat for decades. We support our allies when they fight evil. There's no ambiguity anymore. Washington and Tel Aviv are moving in lockstep. And that means any Israeli move, even the boldest, may now have a silent partner in the Oval Office. Netanyahu calls it a global war for democracy. Trump calls it standing up to evil. Iran calls it imperialism and blasphemy. But as jets fly, civilians die, oil prices spike, and diplomatic channels freeze, who's really winning? If this war expands, if it targets Iran's leadership, is this the beginning of a new Middle East? Or the beginning of World War III, fought in deserts, skies, and screens? Is Netanyahu liberating the world from terror or dragging it into one? Is Netanyahu chasing legacy through fire? Is he trying to redraw the Middle East by removing its most unyielding figurehead? Or is this the desperate gamble of a leader on the seas at home? And what about Trump? Would Trump administration back such an assassination? Or would it pull back, fearing global collapse? Meanwhile, as the war escalates, and it is escalating, countries around the world are now scrambling to protect their own citizens caught in the crossfire. India has launched an emergency evacuation generation for its nationals in Iran. The first batch of Indian students stranded in Tehran has already been moved to the safer city of Qom, with further extractions underway. This humanitarian angle highlights how war is no longer a regional affair. It's a global emergency now. So, now comes the ultimate contradiction. Netanyahu says Iran's nuclear ambition must be crushed, but Iran's own president now says we never wanted nukes to begin with. They never intended to build, to create, to start nuclear weapons, but only nuclear energy. Is someone lying, or has the war already outpaced its original truth? If Iran truly never intended to build nuclear weapons, then why there is no yes to any negotiations whatsoever? The cycle of attack and counter-attack continues as casualties mount on both sides. Israel defense officials announced complete aerial dominance over Iranian skies, destroying over 120 missile launchers. That's 1/3 of Iran's surface-to-surface missile capability. Now, if a non-nuclear strike can paralyze a nation's different system in 72 hours, is military might now defined more by tech and precision than size? Meanwhile, no one is ready to negotiate or declare ceasefire. How far should the nation go to defend its people before the cost becomes unbearable for its civilians? And how do we weigh a sovereign state's right to strike back versus the humanitarian cost that follows? As the war escalates, stay with us as we will continue our coverage, because in times like this, the most powerful thing we can do is ask the questions that matter. Keep watching The Global Eye.